Hey everybody, Adam Savage at Earl Hays with Props to History's Michael Corrie. Hello, sir.
Hello again.
It's time to have a serious conversation about money. Actually, there's a terrible movie called Way of the Gun that includes this wonderful line in which James Caan says to someone, $10 million is not money, son. It's a motive with a universal adapter. Stacks of money are the ultimate film MacGuffin.
They absolutely are.
And all of the stacks of money from the history of film have come from here.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah,
Amazing.
there's a few other companies that are starting to make money now, but the vast majority of money you see in film going back to the early days of film have come from this company. And we're actually standing in front of, or behind, some examples of it that have been produced here over the years, showing both the old way of doing it and the new way of doing it, and then some ways that shouldn't be done to do it.
Right, because if we haven't talked about any of this, but the U.S. government long ago gave the Secret Service purview over counterfeiting and our currency.
Probably because no one else wanted it.
Yeah, I really do think of it as the kind of like, who wants this one? And everyone's like this, and they're like, Secret Service, you got it. And like, damn it. But they take that really seriously, up to and including, not finding any humor in the making of bills. They have high restrictions, and I know this place has actually been raided by the Secret Service.
It has. I don't want to speak to the specifics of it, but it comes down to someone. It oftentimes stems from someone getting this money off of set, trying to use it, and then it gets traced back.
Right.
And the
so
Secret Service,
that's why the visits happen. Is that they'll be like, let's say a briefcase explodes and money's flying around, and someone on set or someone off set, money flying around, picks this up and thinks maybe I should pass this and tries to spend it. And then the Secret Service doesn't care where it came from or why.
No, because as you say, they don't have much of a sense of humor about it, and their visits, we'll call them that, often involve them coming in and going, oh, it's for the film industry. Okay, fair enough. Off you go.
And yet, despite that, they have very specific ideas about how much it can look like real money.
Absolutely.
I remember doing a stop motion commercial with dollar bills with Jamie Heineman, and there was we could replicate the dollar bills exactly, but only above 200%.
Only if they were enlarged.
Yeah, and so once they were 200%, they were fine with it being a perfect
there's no
simulacrum.
way anyone would ever make the mistake that that was real money.
So what are some of the restrictions that Earl Hays used to have versus what they now have? I'm sensing that it's been a moving target over the years.
It has. It has changed constantly. Well, so we go back to the earliest days of film. Back in 1915, the United States government passed a law that basically said, art could not use American currency. You could
as
not,
an image.
As an image. You could not use U.S. currency. So in the early days of film, they used really fake-looking money until the Mexican Revolution ended.
And why would the Mexican Revolution affect the American film industry's use of fake money?
Because the peso of the day was automatically worthless.
At the end of the
revolution, with the change in government. So instead of using this obscenely fake money that was starting to get used,
which is like pieces of paper with a dollar sign on it.
Yeah, it's basically, or an eagle drawn on, or some other terrible nonsense. Just a cash symbol, There was this very enterprising individual that realized the peso was worthless. I can go buy truckloads of them, and they look close enough. And that man's name was Earl Hayes. The guy who started this company, he went and bought truckloads of these bills.
Of worthless?
Yeah, they were quite effectively worthless.
So this is a real peso?
It's a copy of those real pesos, because those pesos, he literally bought truckloads of them, and they were used up until the 1960s when the law was sort of, by that time, had no teeth. Yeah, you would still see Mexican pesos being used as U.S. currency.
Wow.
And then that had started to fade away in the 40s when you started to see people making replicas, and by people I mean Earl Hays Press, making replicas of U.S. currency that were starting to get better and better and closer and closer. And that's when the Secret Service started creating guidelines, I guess. They were never really hard and fast rules about what money could look like and how close you could get. And nobody until recently has really kind of tried to make a hyper-accurate replica of money. So Earl Hayes has always been making money that looks good enough.
Right.
And it passes.
And from my understanding of all the different stories I've heard in the film industry over the years, is that it's not like the Secret Service is trying to be difficult to work with.
Mm-hmm.
They had early restrictions for how close film money could look to real money, and then accidents happened and they changed their minds about what was okay and what was not okay.
Oh, yeah.
And as they did, it's really specifically like about the relationship between design elements, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of times it's the picture in the center. It has to move from one end to the other and be completely opposite of how it works. This is one restriction.
Right.
And then that changes to where you could only use specific colors that didn't quite match the green that we use, that we know on our money. Certain elements had to be removed. Certain elements had to be made opposite. Certain elements had to be shifted, or you could only have 80% of elements. And it was...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
I have one question I've always wondered about. Why not simply make it look exactly like a bill, except for under here?
That has been done.
That has been done.
Yeah.
I know that they have some restrictions about it can look exactly like money on the front, but can't have a back.
Yeah, it has to be blank if you do that. Or it has to say for motion picture use only. But now it's because the rules seem to change so much. Everybody that makes money, and there are a couple companies that do it besides Earl Hayes, they just started going the safe route.
To make something that's very different, could not
so
be mistaken in situ, but still flashes from. I mean, the thing is that like that sells.
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
have
Even
no
from here,
issues
that sells.
believing that from right here is the right thing. I know, and
That
that's
sells.
So
Yeah,
happy.
absolutely
This
sells.
is 9-year-old me.
Oh,
just
yeah,
would
absolutely.
be so happy to
Oh, yeah.
know I would one day be in the
42-year-old me is
Right,
really happy it's right here.
Okay, so old ways of manufacture versus new ways. Is this some of the oldest Earl Hayes designed and manufactured money here?
It's a variant of, because it's changed over the years. The plates have died. They make new ones, etc. But it's
the
still
plates wear out after a few
absolutely.
100,000.
A few 100,000 runs through. Anything will begin to wear out.
Sure.
And right in front of us here, we have an example of the plates and that would be used to make money. It was actually the plates used to make this bill right here.
This bill?
That bill right there.
Okay.
And it's 4 parts.
It is 4 parts.
It's the reverse and the obverse.
Right, and the color and the different color.
The different colors for it. And that's done on a different type of press than what they have here today, because it's a massive, massive machine. The press is used to make these. And they don't have the room for them anymore.
Sure.
So they've done away with them, and they do this off-site. But they still have these. And it starts out with artwork, hand-drawn artwork, that's then turned into a negative. That negative is then transferred onto metal. It's carved out.
Wow.
And then they can run it. And this is still done to a degree.
Yeah.
It's not as common. This is a result of it here.
This is
a
what that
printed
looks
sheet.
like.
Yeah.
I definitely have some of these from a 2000 era bank commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, there's tons of it out there. And the way it's done today is almost all digital. And it's called blue money. This is an example of blue money.
Now, interesting. Why is it? I mean, I see that it's blue.
Yeah, it's bluish, but it's more greenish.
Yeah.
There's no blue stripe. Yeah.
And so that's why they call it blue money?
Yeah, that's why it's called blue money.
And that'll be the fastest way a person will realize this isn't $100.
Yeah, it does not have anything that indicates the security stripe on it, that blue stripe. And it's just called blue money. But this is all digital now.
And it looks, again, for the color of modern money, this looks really great.
It sells, yeah, because you have now with modern money, with modern U.S. money, you have a bit more color variation in it. It's not just solid green.
Right.
So you get that effect from a distance and up close if it's flashed, and it works automatically.
Yeah.
You know, this is the new way versus the old way. Now, there's a way that it should not be done, ever, but has.
What's that?
Making it exactly like money with no changes whatsoever. So say you have to make a movie that involves being in Cuba before Castro.
Right.
And you need money, like say, for instance, Godfather 2. You need Cuban money, so what do? Well, in Earl Hayes' case, they just took Cuban money and made exact copies of it. There is no change from real Cuban pre-Castro money to this.
And this is an exact replica of pre-Castro Cuban money.
Yeah, because all of this was made for Godfather 2.
Oh, no way!
These are actual props made for Godfather 2.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and this is the way you don't do it.
Oh, really?
You know, this back then, they could get away with it because no one cared. You know,
Right.
it's defunct money. It's no longer used. That economy doesn't even exist. The money's worthless. It's
Right.
just paper.
So why is it problematic?
Because now money can come back into circulation. There's always the risk of that.
okay.
And it's just one of those things that there's not a hard and fast rule against it.
But I would also imagine there's a collector's market, and Earl Hayes doesn't want to mess with some collector's market. I think of my friend Ryan Nagata when he makes NASA parts, specifically always includes the word replica in the serial number, so it won't get mistaken.
Well, his stuff is so close to the real.
But I mean, this could also fool
a collector. And it's one of those things that if you're making money that way, the Secret Service is going to go, what else are you doing? You know, and to keep the Secret Service happy, just don't do that anymore.
Do we know who this is on this bill here, on this plate?
I think that's actually, so a little history of Earl Hays Press.
Yeah.
So back in the day, 1915, Earl Hayes starts this. As the years go by, Earl Hayes wants to retire. So a gentleman buys it, and that gentleman's name is William Bailey. We just know him in the house as Bill Bailey.
Sure.
Bill Bailey is the most seen signature on money in film history.
Hilarious.
And that's old Bill.
That's Bill.
That's Bill. That's Bill Bailey.
That's great.
So Bill Bailey shows up on money a lot. So does the gentleman who used to own this, the current owner's grandfather. We just call him Senior. He's on a lot of wanted posters that you see in the background. Bill Bailey's on a lot of them too. The people that work here tend to be in the props a lot.
This is, of course, holding these metal plates that print money is making me think of Black Rain.
Oh yes,
a great prop
those
MacGuffin.
plates are so good in that.
They're gorgeous.
But if you look at them close, it's like there's something missing. If you start to pay attention, there's something missing because they're money plates. So you run the risk of the Secret Service paying attention.
Yeah. So what did you notice was missing?
So it feels like they've left out some detail in the money from what you show when it's printed, because that was digitally done. They printed those digitally. When you see the money that comes from them. The rest of it just feels like the plates weren't fully finished. And I may be wrong, but to me, that's what they look like.
I've always wanted to replicate that prop.
Yeah.
The money plates.
Well, there's also, Rush Hour 2,
Oh, yeah.
where they have the plates that they make, which they show the process of the plates being made. It's absolutely beautiful. And then all the money getting dumped out, which also led to another prop house being raided.
Really?
Yes, that money got dumped everywhere, and people snatched it up, and it looked really good.
Yeah.
And then there was, I won't say the names because,
Sure.
but
These are all people trying to make a living.
yeah,
I get it.
that prop house got raided, people got put in cuffs. Everybody at the end of the day had a big laugh. Probably not, but.
Right, yeah. This is an amazing dive. So it's always been a necessary part of their business model, and it's always been a fraught part of their business model.
Absolutely. Well, they've been supplying money to the film industry since the film industry was the film industry.
Right.
And in one way or another, it's always a risk, because when the Secret Service started taking very heavy precautions about counterfeiting, because in the 1920s and 30s, counterfeiting was, quite frankly, all the rage.
Right.
And anybody that owned a printing press was...
it's funny, I can totally see, calling up the Secret Service and being like, can I check this bill with you? And they'd be like, no.
No. Yeah.
It's not, it's a moving target. If someone tries to spend your bill and someone accepts it, we're going to change the rules because we would have to.
Yeah, they then have to institute new anti-counterfeiting regulations. And so it's really one of those things that you just try to shoot as low as possible.
I have one more question, which is, here amongst the bills that are on the table, these really show up as looking the least realistic when they're in this grouping. Mm-hmm. But is that something that's really easy to solve in camera in terms of your color balance? And so these end up feeling much more real on camera, even though they seem quite highly tinted to us.
Your lighting is gonna be heavily dependent on it. Like if I'm prop mastering a movie, and they say, get me a whole bunch of money, I'm not gonna buy this briefcase and this.
Right.
I'm gonna use one type of currency because of lighting.
Of course.
But it could be that a scene is so dark or so heavily lit that you need something of that color, so they make it in different tones as necessary. And like a lot of this, like this money, stems from when black and white television was still a thing.
Right.
So it works in black and white, it works in color.
Gotcha.
And this is such a commonly used bill at this stage.
Right.
But it also leads to, it's a question I get a lot. What's the most reused prop in
it's got to
history?
be stacks of...
It's money, but which kind? Because this design has changed so many times over the decades. that it's impossible to determine, because most of the time this is how you see money on screen.
Right.
It's gone in a flash.
Yeah,
You have no idea. But yeah, it's a fascinating story that has a lot more questions than answers.
That's really cool. Michael, thank you so much. And I know so much more about film money than even I thought I did, and I'm obsessed with it.
I have learned so much from the beginning, like when I first started working here at Earl Hayes, just the width and breadth of the history of such a simple thing that has such an impact on film.
Yeah, totally incredible.
But thank you.
Of course. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that video. I cannot tell you how much fun we had filming it. I want to take a moment to thank Michael Corrie, Props to History, and specifically Earl Hays Press for their incredible generosity of the time and energy they have given us to let us follow along as they unpack and reveal the incredible history in this and all of their other buildings. And if you have been watching any of these Earl Hays videos and content and wondering to yourself, how do I add any of that incredible history to my prop collection? You are in luck, because Earl Hays has started to make parts of their incredible collection available to the public. If you've ever wanted your own package of Smeat, well, you can follow the link in the description below and go buy it. This is just one of many things available, and more will become available as time continues. Thanks again to Michael and Earl Hays. See you guys later.